There was a looming report that got out last week, and I just didn't get to it, and I apologize for being a couple days behind. But there was a report out in the atmosphere, and I believe it was by The Athletic, that said it was clear as day in Game 6, right after the Rockets lost to the Golden State Warriors at home, without Kevin Durant on the court, there was a report out there that Chris Paul and James Harden got into it. A big verbal altercation out of frustration, right? And I want to say two things. First off, you can't trust every report. I don't care what the outlet is. People make up stories, and people don't have their ducks in a row. Second thing is, I've seen this happen before. I've been a reporter in very private spaces, right? Think about this. Sometimes certain reporters get turned off by two guys yelling at each other. Especially when you talk about black athletes, a lot of times we're very passionate, right? Like, we're very passionate in debates and conversation, especially when you're losing. When somebody's kicking your ass, it never feels good, right? Sometimes it can be perceived as, especially when it's my teammate and I call that dude my brother, right? And I'm supposed to have his back and I'm supposed to be able to call him out for good or for bad. And because the NBA doesn't have a lot of that back and forth, we're going at it like it used to, sometimes it can be perceived that these two guys are beefing or they're arguing or they're really into it and they don't like each other. And sometimes they're just having a passionate, very heated conversation at the time, right? So sometimes the media makes that more than what it is. So maybe that James Harden and Chris Paul could have been arguing or having a big altercation, whatever. And it's just something that they were able to, call each other that night, go out the same night and be like, yo, it is what it is. But whether that story is true or not, let's take this James Harden and Chris Paul dynamic in this relationship and let's go somewhere with it. I have been wondering all season, before that little moment or that report, I have personally been wondering all season, in year 2 of the Chris Paul and Houston experiment, what was the relationship between James Harden and Chris Paul? Just been curious. In year 1, it seemed like they worked off each other well, right? And it seemed like, it was pretty much 50-50. 50% of the time, James Harden would get the rock and do his thing, score, or even swing that thing over to Chris Paul. The other 50% of the time, Chris Paul would run the offense, make a play for himself or even James Harden. Others as well, right? And when Harden left the game, Chris Paul could rack up a few assists and a couple baskets. And, they kind of worked off each other. But I noticed this, right? As Chris Paul continued to get injured, and that happened in the Western Conference Finals last year, and he missed game 6 and 7 after he got injured in game 5 with the hammy injury, that Chris Paul. I saw the change going into this season. I saw Harden go back to, it's my team. It's going to be 85 to 90% me dribbling, and y'all can have whatever else. I'm going to make the best play for the team, right? And I can see Chris Paul pretty much become a spot-up jump shooter. So I can see how Chris Paul would be frustrated with Harden's approach to the game. Now, let me give Harden some leeway here. If I'm James Harden, every damn time I need my guy Chris Paul, something goes wrong with his body, right? Like the Western Conference Finals. To this day, I still believe the Rockets, not this year, but last year, I believe they had defeated the Golden State Warriors, and had Chris Paul not went down with that hamstring injury, they would have defeated the Golden State Warriors. I believe that. But life happens. Chris Paul goes down. Harden loses the next 2 games, 6 and 7. Rockets losing 7 on their home court. Missed, 20-some threes in a row? So we go into the new season. We don't talk about this a lot. Chris Paul comes back after missing time with that hamstring injury and misses more time in the regular season. Misses a lot of games in the regular season. If I'm Harden, I'm like, damn, this was cool first time around, right? Because Chris Paul missed time the year before that, right? Now to miss more time this year after the hamstring injury that probably cost us a trip to the NBA Finals to, might I add, go against a depleted LeBron James-led Cleveland Cavaliers team. Now you get injured again. Like, damn, if I'm Harden, I'm thinking to myself, is Chris Paul doing the right things with his body? I'm the one taking a beating at the rim night in, night out, going to the free throw line 10, 12 times a night. I'm getting fouled left and right. I'm the superstar. And all I ask of you is to be healthy for me, to not wear me out in the regular season. So I think both guys have gripes. I believe both guys got gripes. CP3 like, yo, Harden, you shoot too damn much. You take too many damn bad shots. You don't run the offense. It's dribble, dribble, dribble with you. Harden's probably like, hell, Chris Paul, at least I'm here every night. So I've been wondering all year about the dynamics of this relationship between these two guys. Do they like each other still? Are they vibing? And like off the court stuff I've been worried about as well. Like, will Chris Paul still kick it with James Harden in the club? Like, are they kicking it in their spare time? I don't see them together as much as I used to. Now, obviously, people don't post their everyday moves. Athletes don't do that, except LeBron. So maybe they do kick it. I haven't seen it as much like I did in year one. They seemed happier on the court. They seem to vibe. The chemistry seemed to be a little bit better off the court when they're doing like those pressures together into the games. It seemed to be more organic in year one. Year two, it kind of felt a little awkward. I'm just asking questions. And when that report came out, it made me think, like, I've been thinking it all year. It didn't seem like Harden and Chris Paul were clicking, right? Because when the Rockets went out and got Chris Paul, one thing that I was happy about in regards to James Harden was, okay, Chris Paul's going into the Hall of Fame first ballot. He's one of the greatest point guards of all time. At the bare minimum, he's going to come into this Houston Rockets organization and say, Harden, my job is to make you be the greatest version of yourself. Let me put you in great spots. Let me do the bulk of the dribbling, the playmaking, the running the offense. Let me put you in great spots to win. My job is to make sure you win. We're the best when James Harden is the best version of himself. But let me help you get to the best version of himself, right? I thought that's where this was going. I thought Chris Paul had the moxie, the clout in this league and what he had done to say, yo, Harden, give me the damn ball. You done missed 4 times in a row. You taking bad shots. You kicking your leg out. Stop it. Right? That was a bad shot, a bad pass. It didn't feel like Chris Paul had the clout to do that to Harden. And I wonder, is it because of him not being there with the injuries and the distance and the gap between James Harden's game and Chris Paul's game has reached its pinnacle? Harden is that much better than Chris Paul right now, right? Like, Chris Paul ain't even an all-star in this league anymore. And I wonder with the injuries, how much of a factor was that? The fact that Chris Paul couldn't be healthy to be that best version of himself? And did he lose the respect of Harden? Because Harden's like, damn, I can't ever depend on this guy when I need him. And I wonder with him losing the respect of, maybe Harden loses a little bit of respect to Chris Paul on the court, I wonder how that affected them, their personal relationship. And if it has affected their personal relationship, I can understand why Chris Paul doesn't feel like he got that brother there that he could call out on his BS from time to time. Interesting conversation. Y'all tell me what y'all think about what I said in the comment box below. I thank you if you watched this video all the way through. I'm giving y'all the best content I got, man. What y'all think? Y'all think James Harden and Chris Paul's personal relationship between the two affected them on the court this season? Talk to me. Comment box below. Thank you so much for the time, love, support. I don't take it for granted, people. I came from nothing, but I want everything God has for me. I interview celebrities. I talk sports. I still represent the culture.
Got the kids, they are now tuned in.
Yo, we locked in right now, Mr.
Mr.Taliaferro.
Shout out to Mr. Taliaferro.
You're watching Mr.Taliaferro TV.
Mr. Taliaferro TV. Here with the triple B's, you can't do nothing but win.